Kaax Tse Juneau My name in Tlingit is Kaax Tse. I'm a Juneau from Juneau, from the Cedar House. My English name is Sheakley, and I was born in Kaax Tse, Alaska. For me, my whole life, like anybody else that wanted to travel the world, but really I just want to see all of Tlingit country. There's so much here, and there's so much that people haven't seen or even laid eyes on it.
Yeah.
Over 100 years, like their own people, and the history that we know, and a lot of people don't know. And then knowing that history, knowing the objects, the songs, and then being there, I think is really big for me. Like I can feel it, I guess spiritually, you might say. A lot of people are working real hard, spending their whole life learning our language and our culture and our history. But there's only so much that we have access to. A lot of us don't get to hear a lot of our ancient history. A lot of people don't want to share that. They don't want you singing their song or telling their history, and it makes it harder for all of us to learn. Because 30 years ago, 40 years ago, everybody knew everybody's clan history. They might be your family. They are your family, one way or another. And that was something that we all knew. When it came time for someone to get up and share an object and lead a song, they would do that. You'd know that's their clan. But that wouldn't mean that everybody would know that, and it's harder today to know all that clan history when a lot of it's locked away. A lot of it's in recordings. If it's transcribed, it's heavily edited, or even if it's in a book that's published, that it's out there. Like you see the Box of Daylight. Anybody can read about the Box of Daylight, but it's so heavily censored. You don't get the full picture. You don't know everything that happened in that time, before that time, after that time, And it's harder, I guess, for us to not know a lot of that history. Like when there's archaeological digs, if there's any, where's that info for us to learn more? For us to build it, or that opportunity for us to do any of that work. For me, I'm an artist and I carve, and I've done a lot of weaving. It's not my strong suit, but I know how to weave. I know how to go get that, and prep it down and start making something. I've made a lot of things, and they've helped me with some of it, but I want them to have that hands-on knowledge of how to create art and talk about it, and even critique it, or take criticism in the language, because you have to have that. You have that in any other language. Yeah, that's a big thing too. Is getting out on the land. We know, my kids. I make sure they know a lot of our history, their own clan history, and to go to a place where, we already heard about this. We know what the object is, the old object. We know the song, and then this is the place. This is where it happened. To do that, to say that, and then to be there is something you can't get everywhere else. And we've been to a lot of places. We want to go to a lot more. I want them to go. I want to bring them to where their clan's homeland is. Let them get out and walk on their land. That history goes way back to the flood, to after the flood. Whenever that was, and that history, they know that, and to see that, I think that'd just be more of a connection for them. Because this Tlingit is so amazing. I can't see living anywhere else. Just like-minded people. Artists. Working with a lot of artists. People will work on the same things, or help me work on projects, or I'm working on projects with them. It's awesome because we get to do so much, learn so much from each other, and then build that skill. I saved my dad's life when I was 17. That was a big time for me. I think at the time I didn't really want to be working with him. And I was out in Juneau, way out on the point there. I just moved up by him, worked with him for a month, and I was done working with him. I didn't want to work with him at all. And we were cutting these big 80-foot spruce, and he was cutting them, and then I was just kind of moving the brush and everything aside, carrying section that spruce fell on him.
Oh man.
And the whole time we were racing the tide, like we were cutting these trees that were right on the beach, and he was cutting them, and you know, I was just kind of moving everything up for him, and this big 10-foot section fell on him. And without even thinking about it, I just ran and grabbed his chainsaw, cut this big round out, and it's a round of like, he somehow held the whole tree from like crushing him.
Wow.
And he was like pinched between the one that was below him, and he was holding it up just barely. And this round was like, two of us couldn't even hold hands and wrap around it. I mean, it was huge.
Wow.
And I cut both sides of it, and I pushed it off of him, and then I drug him up the beach there. And first time I ever smoked a cigarette. And, I just sat there because I was out of breath, and he was out of breath. And before I was even done, you know, right where I dropped the chainsaw, the tide was already up where he would have been. And I know for me, everything in my life is really heavy around like what my kids know and how much they learn, especially around our culture. And if they see that,